South Ribble Council's Community and External Scrutiny Committee. I'm Councillor Angela Turner and I'm chair of this committee. We have committee members in the Civic Centre along with officer support. The meeting is being live streamed via YouTube and will be available on the Council's website. Some housekeeping for those in the Civic Centre. There are no fire drills planned, and if the alarm does go off, please leave by the emergency exits at the back of the room and congregate on the car park. Please turn mobile phones off and switch your microphones off when not speaking. For those joining us via Microsoft Teams, please remain muted and indicate at the appropriate time when you would like to speak, and I will bring you in. We will now move on to the meeting. First of all, I'd like to welcome the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner, Mr. Andy Pratt. We're very grateful for your attendance here, and it's much appreciated on what is obviously a topic that will never be at the back of residents' minds, that's for sure. I'd also like to welcome Sarah Bullock, our new Deputy Chief Executive, who is in the audience. I'll now move on to the meeting itself. Do we have any apologies for absence, please?
Chair, we've got apologies from Councillor Colin Coulton, Councillor Paul Wharton-Hardman, Councillor Matt Campbell, who's been substituted by Councillor Gleave tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Item 2. Members are reminded to declare any interests they may have. Do members have any interests that they wish to declare? No. I'll move on to item 3. Minutes of the last meeting on Monday, the 27th of November. Members are asked to agree the minutes of the last meeting. Is that okay with everybody? Thank you. Now go on to item 4, where I'll once again thank Andy Pratt, who is the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner for Lancashire and Chair of the Lancashire Road Safety Partnership, to attend to provide us with an answer and the question and answer session on road safety. Can I just please let members know that Mr. Pratt has to leave at 7 o'clock, although I do not anticipate the questions that we have for Mr. Pratt to last that long. Thank you. Members are also reminded that whilst local examples might be helpful by the way of making a point, it would be probably not be appropriate to raise individual ward issues at this meeting. These issues can be flagged up in other ways, and we've already discussed that the officers here will support us in having a communication line with Mr. Pratt in the event of a specific issue in your ward that you may wish to progress, but this meeting is not the place for that. Thank you. Now, I will ask the first question. Please could you give us an overview of the Lancashire Road Safety Partnership? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to come and speak. And I know you've said for ward councillors not to raise things, but I mean, if you give them my email address, I'm only too happy to answer things and to facilitate things further. Yeah, the Road Safety Partnership it started off over 20 years ago as a camera partnership with the police and the county council, and you're probably aware that there are over 260 fixed cameras across the county. They were brought in on the back of work that was done in Australia, actually, in the state of Victoria and South Australia, where they were seeing reduction in road casualties through the deployment of fixed speed cameras. From there, the Road Safety Partnership has developed from not just the police and the county council, of course, the two The 3 higher tier authorities are the 2 unitaries as well, so they're part of the Road Safety Partnership, but also Lancashire Fire and Rescue Service. And Lancashire Fire and Rescue Service actually deliver most of our road safety lessons in our primary and secondary schools across the county. So we've over 500 primary schools and 100 secondary schools, and we're very grateful to the Lancashire Fire and Safety because it's actually not in their statutory duties to do so, but they provide it because they also provide fire safety and also water safety, as you can imagine. And they turn out, of course, to collisions where they've got to rescue people from trapped and crushed vehicles. In addition to that, we have the Highways Authority. National highways, it used to be Highways England. And you're probably aware that some of the major trunk roads are their responsibility. So the motorways in particular, but some of the other major trunk roads in the county. And there's a little bit of confusion at times as to who's responsible for which roundabout. So I have to say the second most complained roundabout in the whole of the county, and I'm sure you could guess this, is the one at Booths at Penwortham, because people are confused about the movements, the timing of the lights, and so probably the third one is going to be the one at the Tank roundabout. And I know I've got a particular meeting to come and meet with residents there at some point. Number 1 on the list, if you ever go towards Fleetwood, is at the Wyre roundabout, and there have even been collisions there between emergency vehicles when they've got confused among themselves. So National Highways is on there. Also, the Driver Vehicle Standards Agency. You might well be aware that in Leyland, certainly on an annual basis, they get involved in a vehicle inspection, which they use Tesco's car park on an evening. It tends to be in the lighter evenings, but they are incredibly useful because they can prohibit vehicles as much as the police can, and it's not just heavy goods vehicles. So they tend to concentrate on the motorway systems, of which there's the inspection bay at Bamber Bridge, but they will come out, and I know, in fact, I think South Ribble, you are ahead of the game in terms of helping to deploy them, of which I'm very grateful to your licensing department, because it's a 3-pronged attack. The police go out and collect the vehicles, they bring them onto Tesco's car park, and then they're given a thorough going over by both the licensing, if it's a taxi vehicle or a licensed vehicle, but also by the Driver Vehicle Standards Agency. Northwest Ambulance are also present on that committee as well. So you can imagine it's quite a gathering. It's quite different than other committees because there are actually elected members on it as well. So we have elected members from the County Council and the 2 unitaries, but we also have a representative from the parish councils. I have to say I pressed hard to get a representative from the parish councils, and again, it's no surprise to yourselves that the majority of our serious collisions are in rural areas, and that's to do with the amount of speed people tend to get up, and of course, if they're distracted by many other means, the collision is always more catastrophic. So, and as you know, both the town councils and the rural council, the parish councils across our county, represent the people as well. So trying to piece that collective into it. So that the executive group meets once every 3 months. We have our first meeting of this year next week. And then there is a delivery group, which is a much larger group of all those agencies, but at a more operational level, which then again meets on a 6 weekly basis to try and coordinate activity. I'll stop there because that's the sort of the brief picture. Once every 3 months, all the agencies together. How can we make the county safer? I'll probably finish by saying the tragedy is we have nearly 1,000 people end up in hospital. That's not just those who are injured, because you have to be hospitalised in order to be counted on the statistics. And last year, 2022, there were 40 people actually lost their lives on our roads for a variety of reasons. Some were pedestrians. Of course, the tragedy, in Penwortham itself was that small boy last year who was collision, well, a van ran over him. So it's a variety from pedestrians, motorcyclists, cyclists, across the full breadth. Speed isn't the only issue, but of course, the greater speed, the greater damage. And but yeah, so I'll stop there.
Thank you very much for that. Is it okay if I call you Andy?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Andy. Actually, the second question is mine, and I think there might be some duplication with because that's this subject kind of lends itself to that. But my question is: so, as chair of the Lancashire Road Safety Partnership, how do you make sure it is effective and fit for purpose? How are you able to hold individual partners to account? Thank you.
Well, Angela, if I could call you Angela, I wish I was their boss. I really do. It's been I'm trying to be completely honest with all your people here. It has been one of the biggest frustrations I've had in terms of trying to, because each organisation is very precious about their operational autonomy. And I know you'll have experienced that within the district councils, but the county councils, the unitaries, it's a process of, it's almost, I feel as though I should be in the United Nations trying to get people to talk to each other and to cooperate. Just a really good example, because I actually think public health should be involved in the whole process, because people drinking and driving and being put in hospital is a public health issue as well, and trying to get them involved in the discussion, because significant funds have gone into public health this last year, particularly around drug and alcohol treatment. So the constabulary are just entering into a new drug and alcohol testing when people get arrested for whatever reason, but particularly and then being able to refer them on to drug and alcohol services. But what I'd really like to see is, if you get stopped or arrested for drinking or drugs, the court process, as we know, is quite a long process these days, because we only have a few magistrates' courts running. So you can be several months after you've been arrested before you actually appear before the court and then are dealt with. Well, why can't you go on some form of drug or alcohol treatment in that period of time? And actually, it would be mitigating circumstances for you. You've made some effort to redress what was the issue that was you got arrested for, and trying to get some of the major other organisations. But people are very precious with their finances. They are. It's a process of challenge. So we're trying to refocus that board into a challenge board to be able to say, actually, we all need to be able to challenge one another. One success, I would say, was the drink and drug driving campaign, because we managed to get a major emphasis this Christmas on drugs, because I'm sure all of you will have come across the smell of cannabis as you stopped at traffic lights and people. And we put from our office, from Andrew's office, we put a significant sum into the advertising campaign, both on radio, both on bus shelters, back of buses, and so on, to try and inform people. It's only the starter for 10, because what we found is over 50% of those arrested this Christmas period, it was drugs. 1 in 7 drivers who were stopped by the police were arrested for either drink or drugs. Last year it was 1 in 10. So the actual percentage, and these are random stops, or the police officers going, well, I need to speak to that officer. But that was a combination of all the various folk getting together and agreeing. So I'm sorry, it's a bit of a long-winded answer, but it's not as simple as me being able to say to those various authorities, you've got to do this. We have got to negotiate with each other.
Thank you, Andy. I think what you informed of us there was actually very interesting. Thank you. So, Councillor Jackson, question 3.
I'm Councillor Jackson, and I'd like to ask, what work does the Lancashire Road Safety Partnership do to make the roads and communities of South Ribble safer?
Obviously, through the work through our office, the Police Crime Commissioner's office, with sort of each agency is doing something and trying to coordinate that together. So to try and get the police back onto a road safety footing. So again, because the strategic direction of the force is down to the Commissioner, and to get the police to, they have had road policing officers, but they've had to do lots of other jobs at the same time. So now we're coming back to our road policing officers, and you'll see them, because instead of wearing those baseball caps, they're now going back to the white caps, which they have great pride in, and also the training they have, because we lost a lot of skills and abilities when we combined people who are trying to do so. You've now got a dedicated and growing number of road policing officers. They tend to drive the high speed vehicles, and if you wanted, you've got Sergeant Sainz here from the neighbourhood policing. But if at some point any of the councillors wanted to just have a look at some of those road policing cars, they're incredibly interesting to have a look at, because they are fully equipped with everything, particularly life-saving equipment for people. So there's the police side. Lancashire Fire and Rescue Service are delivering in targeted lessons, Key Stage 1, Key Stage 3, and also in our secondary schools. And the County Council also, the government also fund the County Council to deliver Bike Safe as well into our primary schools to try and keep our young people safe. The ambulance service, if I could encourage you, I actually think we've probably hit our limit on, we can't arrest our way out of this situation and prosecute people, because the road safety cameras you've got. So there are, I can't remember the actual number that South Ribble have got. It's the 260 odd in the county. You'll have about 30 odd in this borough. But there's also the mobile vans that are targeted around. So if anyone has any speed concerns, please report them. And if you haven't got the link, I can send you the link. They are analysed, and those vans are deployed very strategically according to those figures. And again, I can get you some of your data if you want, if that's of help. So when people see the vans, they slow down, don't they? But actually, we prosecute 80,000 people a year in the county for speeding, and it doesn't seem to be reducing our casualty rate. Because we're trying to save people's lives, aren't we? We're trying to stop people getting and crashing and the like. So speed is one issue. I actually think we need to change people's state of mind. And actually, Lancashire, the North West Ambulance Service, I think could well be the key to this. So they are now delivering a 2-hour programme, and I would offer it, and I'm really glad that your Deputy Chief Exec is here. The first at the scene of any collision is never the police, it's never the ambulance, and it's never the fire service. It's always somebody else. And invariably, it's your white van driver. The people are on the roads all the time. Well, if we could persuade I'm trying to work on Amazon at the moment, which is in South Ribble, isn't it? 380 vehicles out of that. I don't know if you've noticed, but every single one of them has a dent in it. So, and I'm working with Amazon to get their drivers trained to be, instead of being liabilities, to be lifesavers. Can we change people's way of thinking so that they actually become, they get a badge, they do a 2-hour, very intensive, you've 10 minutes to save someone's life at the scene of a collision. Well, can we change people's way of thinking into, I'm going to be a lifesaver? And if you've changed their thinking, it must change the way they drive. Blackburn and Darwin have now trained all their operational staff, the ones who are out on the roads. It'd be great if South Ribble could train your operational staff. I have to say, I operate across the county. I know your Deputy Chief Exec's fairly new, but you are one of the best borough councils to do business with in terms of linking in with, asking for help across the Community Safety Partnership, across people answering their emails, talking. It's great. Practical advice from Keith, your councillors. You've got some skilled people here. It's great. It is. Sorry, I was just trying to put in place each one of those. But I would advocate that change of, if we can change people's minds, and if we do it incrementally, if I could get all the Amazon drivers trained, if I could get all the works vehicles drivers trained. I know the police and the ambulance and fire service are, but they're never the first at the scene of a collision. And in fact, probably each one of us can remember when we were the first at some collision, we've had to stop and think, what can I do? How can I help somebody? And so it gives you the training in, obviously, resuscitation, but also in using the defibrillators, because a lot of people are very scared to use them. They are easy to use, but it's the confidence to use them. And just think, if we could train people, I'm a lifesaver. That'd be great.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt. That was a really good, comprehensive answer. Can I just ask one more question? Okay. You were talking about drug driving and prosecutions. I'm just interested, which drugs are we talking about that are most prevalent?
The only drugs that the constabulary are testing for at the moment, the test is very much like the COVID test, except you basically lick something and then you press a button and it goes very similar to the COVID. It comes up ping, ping on coloured, is cannabis and cocaine. And invariably people are using both. It's so one's a high and one's a low, but people will combine the two. So invariably they're getting arrested for both. And even three. So they might well have alcohol, cannabis and cocaine. So they get arrested, taken back to the police station. And then they have to have a blood test. So there's an analysis of how much is in there. But those over 50%, which is a significant move from where it was last year. If you can imagine, it's a bit like a litmus test. The cops have sort of delved into the drivers before Christmas. Stops nearly 2,000, 271 got arrested. So it's a bit like a sample. It's a bit like and they're going, 1 in 7 in that time was illegal. Should not have been driving their vehicles. It's a shame on us, isn't it? So, and also people, certainly the conversations we've been having, because we've been doing some surveys of folk, and if we did a survey among ourselves now, people think if I smoked cannabis yesterday, I'll be okay today, or cocaine yesterday. Well, you won't be. It's in your system for an awful long time, depending on your body, depending on the amount you've taken. So yeah, there's a lot of misapprehension about it, but they're one of the major factors in collisions. Over 20% of the collisions, people where there was injury, people have been using drugs.
Yeah,
Councillor Jackson, your question 4?
I think we've covered some part of this. How does the Lancashire Road Safety Partnership engage with district councils and councillors more widely?
I don't think it does properly. You've got me showing up. You've got occasionally county council officers will come out to meetings. So I've done a number in South Ribble where I've managed to get the engineers to come out, because I'm not the expert in what to do with a road or what's the best way for lighting or signage. So I'll ask them to come out. But it is, and invariably I'm talking about South Ribble, but your elected members will have asked, can we come out? But there isn't. At the moment, there isn't a structured way of doing that. The only other way is through your community safety partnership, of which I know you're going to have a bit of a discussion about that. And it's a fragile relationship. I would encourage your community safety. I'm not sure who chairs the community safety partnership here. Well, then I'd definitely get road safety on that as a standing item. And someone probably from the county council to link in a bit more. It's not unique to South Ribble. We're talking about the 12 districts, and it's a fragile relationship which needs to be stronger. Councillor Keith here is, he's a sort of a mini expert himself in that sense, but it's great that he's able to link in as well.
Okay, to just add something in. Yep, just to say that, yes, it is a standing item, road safety, on the Community Safety Partnership Officer Working Groups. We do regularly have people from Lancashire County Council attending as well to brief us. We had a Community Safety Partnership meeting today, and we had a full brief from one of the officers from Lancashire County Council, including if we have any specific issues and areas that have come through via councillors. We always have somebody who's able to then coordinate and meet up, and again, they're extremely responsive to meeting on specific issues in our area with road safety. So I would say generally we have a really good relationship, and we do get responses pretty quickly from the team.
Thank you. So next question from me, actually. Again, I think with a lot of these questions, you've probably covered over in your talk already, but we're considering our community safety partnership actually at the next agenda item with Jennifer. How does the Lancashire Road Safety Partnership link with the Community Safety Partnership in their statutory reducing crime and disorder role? Thanks.
There is a county-wide community safety partnership that's chaired by Angie Ridgewell, and it links in there in terms of a reporting mechanism.
Thank you. Very succinctly answered. Question 6 is Councillor Jackson. Yeah, thank you.
Andy, when we speak with residents, speeding is a major issue. What more enforcement can be done by the police to deal with repeat offenders?
Yeah, if I could encourage people to use the speed portal, it's the Lancashire Road Safety Speed Portal. If you haven't got the link, I can send it through. It is analysed on a daily basis, and deployments are carried out from the back of that analysis. There's various, so let's take 20 mile an hour speed areas. Some are zones and some are not zones, they're just 20 mile an hour signs. There have been enforcement in some of those areas when people have been blatantly speeding in that sense. So there's often a narrative around is that you can't be prosecuted. You can be prosecuted. The numbers are very small, but I have to say that over 50% of the complaints about speeding are in 20 mile an hour areas. And it bothers people, doesn't it, that you've got a 20 mile an hour sign, but somebody's doing 40. I have to say, and I've done it with a number of primary schools myself, is that if I can get one of the neighbourhood policing staff to come out, and we'll go out with the kids and we'll stop the vehicles, and the people that tell the drivers off are not the police officers. If you get told off by an 8-year-old, you get it in the neck, and you'll never ever forget it, will you? So it's building up those relationships where the police officers are available and also the schools. So it's a sort of there's a whole series of like mini police around, but this is the young people themselves, because invariably they don't feel safe and they're only too willing to get involved in road safety initiatives. Community Road Watch, is where the public get involved with the handheld speed devices, which has a similar process, and people get warning letters about their behaviour. There is a county-wide database, so if Andy Pratt appears in Padiham and he also appears in South Ribble, he's got what is he playing at? He'll then get a visit from the cops. You're probably aware that if someone is really misbehaving with their vehicles, or if you've got no insurance, or if the vehicle is in a very poor condition, the police will take it off you. They'll put a prohibition order on it, and it goes in the back of a trailer. Several thousand vehicles were taken off the road last year because of people's misbehaviour, of which speeding comes into that count. So it's a section 59 of the Road Traffic Act that the police can use, and so can the Driver Vehicle Standards Agency. 30 mile an hour zones. The Community Road Watch, of which there's a number of them around, and that takes people volunteer and get involved in that. And the Chief Constable has specified there should be 3 in each borough area every month, Doesn't sound a great deal, but during the COVID period, there were none done. So it's trying to build up that capacity, and also the capacity of the neighbourhood policing teams to help, but also the knowledge and understanding of those officers themselves. The policing, obviously, through the fixed cameras, but also the mobile units, which are used continually, and then your road policing officers. Now, if you've got what we did on the Christmas drug driving, is there was a particular QR code or an email address that people could say, Andy Pratt's constantly smoking cannabis, taking cocaine, and his registered number's this. Well, the police are now operating a database of those, and they've all got very fancy PDA devices that will ping up, and if it comes past one of the automatic number plate recognition cameras, it literally goes ping, and it'll alert you to Andy Pratt's driving down this road and he needs stopping. So that's a very targeted against some very persistent drivers. So trying to encourage the public to be able to say, look, we need to keep ourselves safe. The idea around drink driving has sort of got into a lot of people's heads, but certainly that colossal rise in particularly cannabis, but cocaine use. And it's not just young people. People say, oh, it's those lads in those little cars. It's across the full spectrum of society, from young to old, rich to poor. There's no group left out. Male, you name it, we're all in there. So yeah, there's quite a bit around that. It does rely on information. So the cops, because they can't be everywhere, so they need to go where the information, where the intelligence puts them. So if the public can report that, even better. But it is analysed, it is looked at.
Thank you, Andy. Question 7, Councillor Keith Martin, please, if you've not already answered it.
Hi, Andy. Firstly, thank you for your comments about myself earlier. I might still be able to get out the door. So we're going to mention about the current position of 20-mile-an-hour zones and roads. You sort of answered part of that. So probably a follow-on would have been around the automatic enforcement of those roads, either using a device, a fixed device, such as one down Liverpool Road, which is obsolete at the moment, and obviously the vans. So for instance, if I was to say we have a serious issue down the road I live, and we estimate this, could that be possible to enforce in that sort of way?
The constabulary tend to work on the highest risk, and the highest risk tends to be on our rural roads with speed. So the 20, which is why you're only going to get a few prosecutions, which is why there's been a handful across last year, across the whole county in the 20-mile-an-hour zones, because the speeds aren't. There's one road in West Lancs where they put a speed indicator device out, and I'm very grateful to South Ribble. You are the only district council that has speed indicator devices that you move around and are incredibly useful in terms of alerting drivers to their speeds, but you're the only district council that does it. I wish all the others did, but this speed indicator device clocked somebody at 133 miles an hour on one of the rural roads. So the police tend to, it's unlikely, Keith, unless there was a really specific, look, it's Andy Pratt again, and he constantly tanks down this road. So pass that information. Here's his registered number. So your neighbourhood policing sergeant's here. He sits down and he goes, I need to get one of the road policing officers on his case. And there's a bit of a conversation. It's more on that sort of targeting, because the majority of our major collisions, whilst people, there are collisions, the major injuries are coming from the more rural roads. And we've seen some horrendous deaths over the Christmas period, actually.
Sorry, thank you for that, Andy. Question 8. Sorry. Right, just 1 second. Okay, I didn't see your indicator on, so.
I thought no matter. Okay, thanks for that. I think with the amount of intelligence on your vehicle now, I think we'd probably be safer by self-confessions. Just slightly deviating from that, I want to mention Operation Vertebra. Obviously, we had that had an impact on our licensing officers who were involved in that. So that, are you involved in that as a group, and what influence can you have on where Operation Vertebrae or any future operations of similar nature can act?
Sure. I mean, for those of you who aren't aware, Operation Vertebrae took place along the M6 from Carlisle down to Birmingham, and there was specific. It was coordinated by the Driver Vehicle Standards Agency, but actually Employment, Environment Agency, local licensing, the police, and the fire service were all brought together. In fact, it's one example of actually when practically, operationally, people work really well. We're involved in it, certainly from the Crime Commissioner's office as well. And from that's a good example of the partnership actually pulling together, because we have one of the major motorway networks running right through this borough as well. I have the target that the DVSA was set was for 2 weeks. They achieved it in 1 day in terms of the number of vehicles, the atrocious standard. And in fact, if you ever passed that, you might have seen just before Christmas there were 2 heavy loaders that were pulled over. They were actually pulled over by the police, but that wasn't under vertebrae but something. But they were there for nearly 2 weeks because they hadn't got the proper paperwork. They were overweight. They were illegal. And they were proper firms, but you weren't moving them, and they were prohibited until the actual firm got it sorted. I went out with them. There's a particularly nasty criminal who works from Great Harwood, who delivers all sorts of rubbish. So he will pick your rubbish up illegally and dump it illegally, and he's been doing that for many years. Well, one of his vehicles was coming down the M6, and it did just that. It just went bing on the Driver Vehicle Standards Agency. It was a tipper wagon. It was pulled in, and it was crushed. The driver said, "Come on, it's out. This van is now going to the." The tipper van was actually crushed because there was no operator's license, and there's some serious criminality using our motorway network. But Keith's point about, I'm very grateful for your licensing people to be involved as well. It'll be happening again this year. It's incredibly successful in terms of catching people, but actually we've got to get into prevention, and we've got to be able to have these operators operating safely. It was pretty scary about what they were stopping. If you want the data, I'm happy to share the data with you, the number of vehicles that were stopped and what they were prohibited for. If you want, I know they're coming through the borough themselves. They were actually stopped on the M6 themselves, but I have that data if you want it. Vehicles, no operator's license, driver in sensible firms arrested for being drunk or being drugs, because when you stop them, you can obviously the officers can smell it. But yeah. But if just let me know, and I can give you the data for that as well.
Okay, Keith, your next question. Yeah.
Last one from me. E-bikes and e-scooters. Yes, I thought you might have that reaction. Fellow councillor, the chair, and myself do have issues in Penwortham generally as a whole, but that they are an issue outright, and we see them increasingly being used for what could be deemed as petty crime, but I'm sure there's probably other sinister modes for them as well. So we hear that sometimes there's a no chase policy for them, and there is an understanding why you wouldn't want to force a vehicle to fly through a high street at 50 or 60 miles an hour. So is that likely to change? Is there any forward plan to perhaps start enacting on these? Apart from obviously the fire risk as well, because
they are a fire risk. They are being seized by the constabulary. You should have insurance and a license if you're operating them. They, as you know, some of them, they soup them up and they go as fast as motorcycles. There is definitely a policy not to chase them, and that is to do with the vehicles crashing and then the officers being blamed for chasing them and the like. If the officers can find out who owns them, then they can actually go around the following day and just seize them. And we try and encourage, well, I personally reported people myself that I know have owned them, and I've seen them driving around, to be able for the officers to go around, if they know their address, to go and seize them themselves. That's the safest way of doing it. Yeah, they're seized. I was with an officer on Newhall Lane in Preston, and somebody actually rode up to him on the footpath on their scooter, and the officer was like, "What on earth are you doing?" "Oh, get out of my way," type thing. And he says, "Well, you've a choice here. Do you want 6 points on your license, or do you want to give me that scooter?" So I have to say it's confused everything with our big cities, because they sort of, in London, Manchester and other places, you can ride them, and so people have got it in their heads. And I'm not sure, again, we need a bigger publicity about the safety and the use, because there are a lot of responsible parents actually buying them for people. There are lots of irresponsible ones, and yeah, I am aware of some that are used particularly for criminal purposes as well. But yeah, the cops are on it, and I'm sure, but they are frustrated because they aren't chasing them, but they do. If anybody knows where they are, they'll just go and bang on the door and seize them.
Thank you for that. Finished it. Okay, Councillor Pritchard, the next two questions over to you, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Andy. Parking around schools is a big issue for lots of our residents, and we spoke a little while before about, the kids getting out and shaming the drivers. But in terms of actual parking around the schools, can you tell us what's been done to tackle that at all?
Yeah, I suppose if we had a quid for sorting that out, we'd be rich, wouldn't we? There's 500 schools. The only school that I've ever seen that's managed to sort it out is Tarleton High School. If you go there, I'm amazed. It kicks out, and the kids are walking in two directions. There's not a car to be seen blocking the road. I'm just amazed. Everywhere else, it's. I live on Cop Lane. I live opposite the primary school, and the head teacher's been to see me and said, "What can we do about it?" This was about 18 months ago. We had about 20 odd vehicles that were parking on the double yellows or on the zigzags, and of course, both are illegal. One can carry points on your license. So what I did, I said to their teacher, "Look, whilst you've written to the parents, you can get a letter off me, and I can specify what the law says and what the penalties are." And we did that, and we've got it down to from 20 to about 3 parents now, which I think is a success. As I came here tonight, one of the persistent parents, because I'm coming out of my drive, thinking, and I know some of the kids weren't in school, but the limit's up to 6 p.m. and, just past 5 o'clock, you should still not be parking on the zigzags. The kids, I'm telling you, the kids are brilliant on their iPads, because Operation Snap, which is a police videography and photography process, you can use your mobile phones or the dash cams in your cars, and you get the kids out and with drivers illegally parking. They love it. Got you. And then you send that data in, and then they either get a warning letter, depending on the severity, or a prosecution. And because with the best will in the world, we haven't got enough neighbourhood policing staff to get out, and well, not for 500 schools, have we? And there's an issue in all of them. So ramping it up bit by bit. So you're very welcome to a letter from me. Officially, it doesn't mean a great deal, but it spells out the penalties, and it's on official paper, and it's "Please will you behave, or else this could happen." But I've found, this is a bit cruel, I found incredible enjoyment with being out with the kids with their iPads, and they go, "Got you." And what are you doing? What are you doing? Well, why are you parked? Why? And of course, arguing with an 8-year-old, can't do it, can you? Because they are right. So yeah, and we've encouraged that at a number of our primary schools, which has. So coming at it, because the best will in the world, and we've seen it, you can deploy because the zigzags and the double yellows, the Lancashire County Council staff can prosecute, but they always give people several minutes leeway. Whereas actually, on double yellows, you've got to ask a few questions. But if you're on the zigzags, unless you've broken down, there is no excuse. So they sort of, I'd rather they were a little bit tougher on that. But most people want to be responsible. There's always a few who will push it. So I would always encourage, and I'm off to primary school tomorrow, just to chat with the, if I can get out of strategic meetings and talk to kids, I will always do that, because the kids they always want to do stuff, and I'm always interested in doing, as opposed to, But thank you, Leslie. If you've got a school, I'll find the time and let's come and chat with the parents. And I like talking to the school council, because they've invariably got some cracking ideas. Yeah.
Thanks, Andy. I think we might be taking you up on a few of those ideas. So the final question is, what more do you think that local communities can do to help improve road safety where they live?
I do think we need a sea change, cultural change across the whole nation. COVID, the vehicle use went down. Post-COVID, vehicle use has gone, and people's behaviours changed. I don't know whether you have noticed it, but there seems to be a disregard for red traffic lights these days. You stopped, and then somebody, they'll come through, which, and we've seen that. And so I've asked across the nation, it can't just be Lancashire, it's not just Lancashire. So we've seen a sea change in people's thinking. Now, we can't blame everything on a virus, but we need to have a change of culture somehow. And that's why I'm advocating, can we turn people in from liabilities into lifesavers? It's a free course, by the way, if any of you want to do it. If you're councillors, Angela, from this role, if you want to advocate, can we put it on? It's 2 hours, and you come out with the confidence of being able to save someone's life at the scene of a collision. I just think it'd be terrific, wouldn't it? Yeah, when you're driving, you think, right, okay, I can do something. Because it's scary. It is scary to come across a collision. But yeah, so trying to change that. Communities, we don't have enough information out for folk. We spent probably the best part of £20,000 on all the publicity prior to the drug driving. But it's a small drop in the ocean of what we could do. If we could all pool a little bit of resources to sit down and go, come on, let's have a real target through the county, through the district, through the police, through the ambulance, through the drugs partnerships. And stop being a bit too parochial about stuff. We can all help each other. Yeah, if I can help you, I will. And the same across all the county. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that, Andy. Do we have any questions from members not on the committee? Do we have any questions from members of the public? Would you like to come?
I'm just pressed.
Good evening, Andy. 2 points. You keep on about the road safety unit. I live on Langdale Road near Runshire College, and for the last 10 to 12 years, I wrote to the county councillor, I wrote to our previous 3 MPs. Lancashire County Council came out and did a risk assessment on the road before you set a speed camera up. That's what they told me. And they said Langdale Road wasn't fit, it was unsafe to set a speed camera up. Now, I have been out and you put some notice boards up, speed awareness, the flashing lights, etc. But you came out and did it while Runshire College were on summer holidays. So, and we do have a working partnership on Worden Lane where the public get involved, right? But that's all we ever see. The speed vans, I'll be honest about it, I can tell you they're always regular down certain places. They never seem to change the area of mould in Leyland. There's one that always parks near sort of the speed 100 metres from a speed camera just to get people as they speed up again. There's Fox Lane always has one, but we never see any on Worden Lane or Church Road or Langdale Road. So why does that? And like I said, I can go back 12 years when Matthew Tomlinson was the county councillor in charge of highways, and I've seen no improvement over that time.
Right, thank you for the question. If you could give Andy the chance to answer, thank you.
I'll do my best. It's a 30 mile an hour limit there, isn't it? It is, yes. So it has to be either neighbourhood policing staff or road policing staff that do any prosecutions there. The vans can go out, but because they're so big, they have to only be in certain spots. They can't just go anywhere because of the size of them. They should not be parked on the pavement. They should not be parked illegally themselves, which is why you get them in certain spots, because certain spots they can go into. They do vary their patrols because the analysis of that data that comes in, they do move around, and also they've changed their pattern of movement. And in fact, we publish their locations every month where they're going to be. We do, to try and get people to think, I need to slow down. It's a bit of a negotiation. You sat next to the neighbourhood policing sergeant to be able to say, actually, when are the times, because there's no point in him deploying staff. I mean, the point you make about doing it in the summer holidays at Runshaw isn't the best time, is it?
And the other thing is...
Excuse me, sorry, we can't have a debate here between yourself and the Commissioner. If we're giving you the opportunity to ask specific questions, so I'll give you the opportunity to ask one more specific question. It would also appear to be that you have an opportunity to talk to Sergeant Hussain next to you after the meeting, get his contact details to explore the issues you've got. So if you've got one more question you'd like to ask Andy, please ask it and make it specific. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Andy, it was very interesting about drugs you talked about. I do think what you said about firms and Amazon, I know big firms now and they test their drivers in the morning for drugs. But I think your point about education, it's amazing how many people think it's like drinking, where I've had a couple of pints, I've had some drugs, and I think we are lacking in people's awareness of how long drugs take to get out. Could this not be taken up with a TV advert, central government?
Yeah, I'm sort of in negotiation. I'm sorry, it's hard to do both ways, isn't it? But it's a good point, and great minds think alike, but trying to get that linked into the Minister of Transport, who the rascal got changed just before Christmas. I wish this government would stop changing ministers to be able to get exactly that point in. We need all of us to work together on that information. So, but thank you. Yes.
Right, okay, thank you for that. Is there any other members of the public who'd wish to speak? Alderman Forrest, thank you. Please be specific with your question. Thank you.
Yes, I was interested to see that the police have now got first aid kit and so on. What level of training do police have? And the other question, I noticed that you can download free apps to help you with first aid training yourself, and there are various courses and things. Is the free course that you're talking about, is it just available to councillors or is it to members of the public?
The police are trained at various levels. The highest levels are the road policing officers who are constantly attending serious collisions. I don't have the exact details, but there's sort of like various 1, 2 and 3 various levels, and their equipment they've incredible life-saving equipment in their vehicles themselves. The Northwest Ambulance training, which is a 2-hour specific, is available to communities. And what the Northwest Ambulance have found is whilst they advertise it, so whether it could be at Kingsfold and 20 people say they're coming and only 5 show up. That's their frustration. Whereas, so what I've been trying to say to them is, actually the work staff in all our districts and county councils are on the streets all the time. The bin drivers, and so on. They have to do their own personal development. They have to do training anyway. Well, why don't we just build that into their normal everyday health and safety training that they will have? But it is open to the public as well. They have been trying with the public, but it's not been as successful for them in terms of their time and effort. They're currently working in Newman College because, of course, the people who crash their vehicles the most tend to be between the ages of 17 and 25. That is, and probably we've all been there ourselves as young people. And also at Runshaw College, who've both agreed to try and start with some of their vehicle drivers. Not everyone drives in those colleges, but those that do. But yeah, sorry, Councillor, it is open to the public as well. And if you want the link, I can give you the link as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Andy. Could we now formulate any recommendations before Andy leaves? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just some of the themes from tonight that the committee might like to consider as recommendations. So the committee thanks the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner for attending and answering questions. The committee commends the outcome of the Christmas drink and drugs campaign. The committee would like to take up the offer of viewing the high-speed road vehicle capability. The committee agrees to help promote the speed portal to report traffic and safety concerns amongst councillors, employees, including our community hubs. The committee asks that the council considers training operational staff and councillors on the Lifesavers programme in dealing and helping with collisions and accidents. And finally, the committee welcomes the offer of the data associated with Operation Vertebrae and also the template for warning parents and other road users around schools. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. Andy, I'd like to thank you. We're very grateful for you to come here tonight. We've all learned a lot of new stuff that we weren't aware of before. So we really appreciate it. And for me, it sounds like you're making a difference with the limited resources that you've got. So thank you so much indeed. It's really appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, anytime. And if we can help, and I have to say, I'll say this again, South Ribble Borough Council, as district councils go, you are the most at the front of this. And I'm very grateful to the likes of Councillor Martin himself, who does not let me off the hook, by the way. He's as tough as they come, but I'm grateful for his persistence. So thank you.
Okay, we'll now move on to item 5, community safety and partnership update. Thanks, Andy. I'd like to welcome Jennifer Mullin, the Council's Director of Communities and Leisure, who chairs the partnership, and with support from Dan Chapel-Lowe, Community Safety and Safeguarding Team Leader, together with Sergeant Saf Hussain of Lancashire Police, who will present this item. Thank you, and you're very welcome. We're looking forward to what you've got to tell us. Thanks.
Hello, I'm just conscious of time. Do you want me to talk through the report, or do you want me to go straight to questions? I'm happy to do either.
I think I'd like you to take us through some highlights of the report, okay. Some of the top level bullet points. Thank you.
Yeah, so this report is to give you an update on the Community Safety Partnership, which has been going on for quite a number of years. And this is an update report. Generally, the Community Safety Partnership is working very well. We've got some really great relationships with the police and our partners. We have regular weekly meetings, which are called tasking meetings that we have with the police. We have our officer working group, which is a monthly meeting with all the partners, which include the police, fire and rescue, probation service, the ICB, the Integrated Care Board, and we also have Road Safety Partnership people attending, and also partners attend on specific issues like we may have somebody attending from Prevent or from the criminal exploitation team. So we do have a lot of people who attend, and we also have our yearly conference, which we had last November. Well, that month it was it September? And we have our yearly group meetings. So the overall position is very good. We've got an extremely good working relationship. You can see the partnership arrangements and the governance arrangements, which I won't go through, but you can see that and read that there. Sorry, my laptop's playing up now. So if we work through to, we have also an integrated offender management program, which again, I'm happy to highlight if anybody's got any questions. We do have a Prevent partnership. Again, with regards to terrorism and counter-terrorism, we are working to look at various different aspects of it, which would be contest, the prevent, and also the delivery group. So we're looking to prevent by working with young people who may be potentially brought into terrorism. There isn't a big issue in South Ribble. We've gone through all the schools and talked to the schools. I think there was one case last month that we'd been notified with. We're also looking at protect, which is to protect our assets if they potentially, somebody may potentially cause a crime, and looking at our venues and looking at the council properties. We're working with the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner, and as you heard from today, we're extremely good relationship with the Police and Crime Commissioner. We take part in most of their operations that they have that cover South Ribble Borough Council. So we've got, you can read about Operation Warrior, Operation Centurion, has also been mentioned Operation Snap. We've also had some really good progress with some funding bids. So we've had some funding to deliver programmes in schools. We've had funding to deliver 2 programmes. One would be the Natural High programme, which is looking at alternatives to crime and antisocial behaviour. And the other one is getting people with lived experience to talk to children. You know, sometimes it's not, children don't listen to when it comes from the two of us or, you know, responsible authorities. They like to listen to people who've actually gone through it. And that's what the CELS programme is about. I've also put details in about domestic abuse service. So we have seen a drop in domestic abuse incidents in South Ribble. There's been a huge amount of work. We have got a domestic abuse prevention coordinator in South Ribble. So they're working with the various support services, the MARAC that we've got, the White Ribbon campaign. So there's been a lot of work this year dealing with domestic abuse. They also run the sanctuary scheme, which I'm happy to go through later if there's any questions. There's been policies on violence against women and girls and Yes Matter campaign. So there's been quite a lot. We've been working on domestic homicide reviews. We've got responsibility to review each domestic homicide in the council area. And we have to learn lessons and understand what's gone wrong and was there anything that we could do to make sure that it doesn't happen again with responsible authorities. We've got still working on the South Ribble integrated team. This is a really valuable team because this again meets on a weekly basis, and we're dealing with cases of individuals and families who are vulnerable. So they may be vulnerable because they're homeless, they may be vulnerable because of substance misuse, loneliness, isolation, but we work with our partners in the police. And again, part of this is working with those individuals to get access to services. And this may be access to police, it may be access to support services because of domestic violence. There's information about the Violence Reduction Network, and then it goes on to the data from Lancashire Constabulary for the last 12 months. As you can see, there has been an overall reduction in crime in South Ribble. So there's been a 4% reduction in crime. There has been significant reductions in certain areas of crime, antisocial behaviour being one of them, violence against a person being another. But there's also been some increases in certain offences, particularly around robbery, possession of weapons. So again, that's something we can answer questions on. You can see antisocial behaviour is a 5% lowering of antisocial behaviour, which is a great result. There is still problems. There is still hotspot areas in South Ribble, which we've listed. So Morrison's, in particular Tesco's. We've got Withy Grove around the leisure centres, always a particular area. And then you can see again the different types of crime and details about that. And knife crime that we've detailed. So hopefully a comprehensive report of the work that we've done, some good information and statistics to show what work we've done, and I'm happy to answer any questions. There has been a policing change to the operating model. I don't know whether you want to hear about that, because that's been quite a change this year as well.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Chair. So since June the 12th, our operating model in Lancashire Police changed from what we were before to the TOM, the TOM model, target operating model. With this model, what we've seen is the change has been that we've made a reduction in our immediate response officers at the front line in order to open up another investigation department, which is called the Response Investigation Team. What this basically means is that the officers who are at the front will be attending more jobs, staying more visible, acting more of a high visible deterrent on the streets, because what they're able to do is go to a job, do their initial investigation into any incident, and then pass that job on to the response investigation team, which allows them to stay out again. What used to happen is those same officers would pick up the investigation, the crime, the incident, and then they'd be dealing with it. They'd be investigating it. They'd be off the streets then. So with this new model that our Chief Constable, Mr. Rowley, has implemented, this basically means that our officers are on the streets much more visible, and that we have a much bigger resilience in terms of investigating quality investigations into offences which are taking place. And what you're also seeing is that the department that's been created, the skill set is far higher, far greater in terms of accreditation. We call it the PIP 1 accreditation. Your CID officers are PIP 2, and the officers on the streets, you're going to see that since June 12th, that they are much more visible and much quicker to respond to incidents that are taking place. So that's the model, that's the TOM model that's been implemented. That's something new that's happened.
Right, thank you for that, and thanks for your comprehensive summary, Jennifer. I'll ask the first question. Please could you talk us through the progress made by the partnership since you met with us a year ago? What has gone well and what hasn't gone as well? Thank you.
Okay, so what has gone well is that we are working well with the Police and Crime Commissioner. So we're getting more funding, which is great, to do some of the activities that I talked about. So some of the diversionary activities, some of the education activities for young people, that has worked really well. The relationship with the sort of regular consultation with the police is working well as well. So we're getting to see the police at least once a week. So response from individual issues that we've got through from members of the public and from councillors are generally dealt with that week. So if one of the councillors comes to see us about a concern that they have, we generally deal with it pretty quickly. It's got through to the police pretty quickly, and we can look at the issues as soon as possible. Where we've had particular problems, I think, is really working on antisocial behaviour in particular areas. So there's these particular hotspot areas where we've had problems, especially Bamber Bridge and Withy Grove. We've had quite significant problems with antisocial behaviour with particular individuals. We've been working with the young people there. the council have had to pay for additional CCTV, which should be going online pretty quickly. We've got CCTV at the moment, but we've had to enhance it. So we have been working through the Community Safety Partnership, targeting individual young people who are causing issues in our area. So I think one of the things that we do need to do as a Community Safety Partnership is really target that antisocial behaviour in those particular areas, and that's what we're trying to do.
So just to come on the back end, is that okay, Chair?
Okay.
Yeah, just to come on the back end of the ASB, one of the key sites I've noticed since I've been in post in August last year is Bamber Bridge and the Morrisons and the food warehouse. So what I've done is I've been on patrol with my officers, and it's the same young people that are causing the same problems. But what we are trying to now implement are ABC contracts and criminal behaviour orders against the children, speaking to the parents, increasing visible presence. I'm leading that myself. I worked on the late shift last weekend, worked myself there, spent most of my shift in that area. So what we're trying to explain is that there is an active element in trying to deal with the antisocial behaviour. Now, what I try to do whilst I'm there, I direct my officers and staff to be elsewhere as well, where the other hotspots sites are. But just to show you in terms of the commitment towards this problem, I myself am a permanent employee in my posting. Now, in the past, it's been a bit it's been intermittent in terms of consistency with supervisors, but on the police side of things, we're taking it seriously. So they've started investing in the neighbourhood policing department a lot more. I'm seeing an increase in staff that are coming through, and I myself are there. So that you've got now 2 Leyland South Ribble sergeants which are operating, and at the same time you've got that Chorley as well. Just to sort of give you that clarity. Thank you.
Right, thank you for that. Okay. Councillor Jackson, question 2, please.
Thank you for coming to talk to us today. My question is, our role as a scrutiny committee is to ensure the Community Safety Partnership is effective. How do you ensure the Community Safety Partnership is effective, and what is your assessment of its effectiveness?
I suppose that would be the measures. So we've got the police statistics that we measure, and you can see them in the report. But we also look at the police have a what do they know, don't they?
In the know.
In the know, that's it. Lancashire Talking, that people can access and report. And I know the fear of crime is something as well that people are concerned about as well. So that's assessed. There's some statistics that are reported through the corporate plan on feeling safe during the day and during the night in South Ribble. So again, that's measured. So there's quite a lot of measures that we can produce to show the work that's been done has been effective.
Yes, you can.
Do you think you have a problem with underreporting, especially with antisocial behaviour? Because there's certain levels of crimes, and some people think that, oh, I won't bother doing that, police won't do anything. That's just what they say. Because I have been, in my role as councillor, in our ward, encouraging people when they've said that to me. I'm saying you must report every time, date and place. Very, very important. So then that might alter the figures of the antisocial behaviour.
What I'd say to that is, and this is my experience, I've been a police officer for 19 years and done many different roles. My experience tells me that, and this is my evidence base, which is my experience, that when you've got antisocial behaviour in any key area, it's not rampant with all youths. They are the same children, youths in each area which are causing the ASB. So if you're saying that there is underreporting, it's not being reported, the police are fully aware who the children are or the youths are which are causing the problem, and it's just getting round to each group each time, and it's the sort of analogy I can give you. You try to deal with one, but then another fire is going on elsewhere. You try and deal with that one, and and then the third one started. And it's just what I will say to you is it's my commitment, because it pains me as much as it pains anybody else. I'm very committed to my role. And I don't like to see on any of the South Ribble areas, the ASB sort of taking flight. And this is why I go out myself to sort of lead my team, to tell them of the standards that I want them to implement against these individuals, because I know that ASB blights people's lives. And it's a deep concern of mine to get a grip of it. And this is what I'm doing. What I would say to you is to bear with me and give me that opportunity. This is the first time you've met me. And when I come back to see you again, I'll come with my inspector and I'll give you an update, and you'll see a massive reduction, because I will be dealing with these individuals, because I don't want people to not be able to go on their daily business and being affected by these individuals.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Martin, question 3.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, good evening. You sort of mentioned you've answered some of the points I was going to raise. The report mentions that you have an officer working group which meets bi-monthly. I sort of wondered, I didn't hear the transport police. Do you deal with the transport police with that in any way? And the other part of that is, would councillors be able to view or pop along to that meeting and see how it goes along, or is it like the MATAC meetings where it's a little bit secretive?
It is a bit secretive, only because we talk about specific issues that we get, and partners are quite uncomfortable with members being in there. I've already asked that question. The Road Safety Partnership does present to the group. We look at the reports that they've got, and we do invite them in. And there's a standing item, and we do invite them in to come, especially if we've got specific road safety issues. And if it is an issue that the police can deal with, then there's always police presence in the meetings.
Okay.
Transport police, they're not part. They don't come to the partnership.
Okay, Councillor Martin. Right. Okay. Next question for Councillor Pritchard.
Hi. Good evening. Thanks for coming tonight. On page 12, paragraph 11, there's a reference to the partnership plan. How was this developed, and would it be possible for us to have a copy of the plan? Page 12, under paragraph 11.
Paragraph 11. Yeah, we can get the plan. So the plan is based on the crime reports that we get. So then we've got there's a strategic needs assessment that is undertaken. So the strategy is based on the strategic needs assessment, and then it was presented at the annual Community Safety Partnership Day that we had with all members. But yeah, I'm happy to get you a copy of the report.
Next question, again relating to the same paragraph. How up to date was the data that was used to formulate the plan? Because we noticed that the Appendix A, the strategic assessment, is dated 2021.
Yeah, the strategic needs assessment is due this year, so we don't get them all the time. We do get the police statistics on a regular basis, so that's reported at each of the officer working groups. So we do know the current statistics that are coming out with the police, but the strategic needs assessment comes out every 3 years, so that's one due this year.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jackson, question 6, please.
Paragraph 16, the Integrated Offender Management Review Panel is working with 6 individuals. Do we know how successful this has been, please?
So The IOM has got a very good success rate. I don't have it in the report and I don't have it to hand, but I can get the information out from the Integrated Offender Management Programme. It's part of the partnership meeting. So we have the strategic partnership meeting, and then we have the IOM meeting. I think I can't say off the top of my head, but I think it does. I can get the data out, and I think it's very good. The work that they do, especially when we're dealing with people who are linked with our homelessness team, working with people to reduce offending.
Thank you, Jennifer. Councillor Martin, question 7. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. On page 15, Operation Centurion, it mentions Leyland. So I just wondered what additional support would have, say, gone to Leyland with the issues that you were facing there. And I'll ask the question straight away. And what other areas have been the centre of attention for you guys, and what sort of resources have been put to those areas as well?
So can I just ask, when you ask about what other resources, are you talking about are you asking whether it's just the police service or anyway? Well, in terms of Operation Centurion, what we've seen is that officers are deployed in a high visible uniform into key areas where intelligence-led targeting is takes place in terms of any ASB that's been happening. But they have a guideline for Leyland in terms of where they need to go. But the way we operate the model, which I had 6 officers due for duty today for Operation Centurion as an example, and my brief to them is when they come on, I have a brief pack which has been done, but my brief to them is that you have a guide for Leyland in terms of where you need to stay. But what I want you to do is listen to the radio, listen to what's taking place today, look at the briefing that's happened for the last week, and try to go to the areas where you think that the ASB is going to take place. So at the same time, be proactive, but at the same time, be reactive to any of the incoming calls. And this way, these officers are not to be redeployed to any of the immediate response work, the 999 calls, the priority logs which are coming through. These are dedicated patrols which are on foot. And then if they need to travel to another location in South Ribble, they can take a vehicle, but predominantly they are on foot and dedicated to tackling antisocial behaviour. What was the other part of your question? I apologise.
It was just similar resources elsewhere as well. So for instance, in Penwether Moor.
Yes. So in terms of Operation Centurion, as I was saying, as much as they are looking at, so let's say, for example, town centre where McDonald's is, there might be an issue there. And then there may be something going on with Bamber Bridge. That's usually in the evening, but the staff are not restricted or ring-fenced. We have to apply common sense here, which is what I do with the officers that come on, because it's the responsibility of the neighbourhood policing sergeant on duty, myself or Sergeant Angela Atkinson, my oppo that may be on duty. What we try to do is deploy the officers to where the issue is, because what the criticism would be is if there's ASB taking place in Bamber Bridge or at the capital centre, and I've ring-fenced the officers just to the town centre, but it's quiet that night. That just would not make sense. So even though the funding is from the PCC's office, we have to apply common sense, and which is what you'd like us to do. And we are trying to do what we can do in terms of keeping people safe, victims safe, and letting people go about their daily business and tackling antisocial behaviour.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Question 8.
Thank you. Just looking on page 15, moving on to page 16, in specifically the table that's laid out the Pan Lancashire funding accessible to South Ribble residents. So it's on it starts page 15 and runs on to page 16. We found this really, really interesting. We noticed it was Pan Lancashire. Obviously, we wondered how much support is coming in specifically for South Ribble, because we could see this was, very strategic.
Is this for support for victims of domestic abuse?
Yes, so this comes under the domestic abuse service section, and then we were just looking at this table, looking at the as I say, it's very strategic, and we just wondered what the service, how active it was within South Ribble itself.
Oh yes, yeah. These services are all accessible through to South Ribble residents. So more specific for South Ribble. So South Ribble Community Safety Partnership by the council pay for 2 IDVAs, so to support people through the court system, but also through support systems and homelessness cases. We've got our domestic abuse coordinator, and we also have funding that we deliver called Sanctuary, which is to try and keep people in their own homes and safe. So we would pay for safety devices, ring doorbells, window security, door security, garages. So there's some very specific South Ribble accessible services, but there's also these accessible services that are Lancashire-wide that they can access. Obviously, we've got quite a lot of support for people who are fleeing domestic violence, housing support. So we have a duty that we do need to support people who are fleeing domestic violence with accommodation from anywhere in the country if they come through. So we do support partners and funds partners to support that. Key supports that, and we work with the domestic abuse service. So there's some very specific South Ribble, but also wider support through the Lancashire Pan-Lancashire funding.
Thank you. Councillor Grieve. Question 8, 9.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. So page 17, paragraph 31, the diagram shows 145 cases being rejected. Is this entirely due to not having contact details, or were there other reasons, examples of those? And as a supplementary to that, who refers the cases? It's not clear from the diagram. It says cases assigned, but where are they assigned from? Who is actually referring those over?
Right, so these referrals can generally come from partners and self-referrals. So generally they would come through via a partner. So it might be the police, it might be ourselves, it could be housing, probation. It could come from many different aspects. Why cases are rejected? There is a whole range of reasons, and I can again get some reports if you want specific ones. But it could be consent issues. It could be address issues. There's a number of reasons why they may be rejected. It could be that other agencies are seeing to them. There could be many, but I'm happy to provide some information if you need more specifics.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there something we can put in place to make sure that nothing's getting missed? Because it just sounds a little bit like if the contact details aren't being obtained correctly, is there a safety net procedure for that to stop that happening? You know, if vulnerable people are getting missed because we don't have the contact details.
I think I would have assumed, I mean, I can go back and have a look into it. When they're rejected, somebody will always follow up on that. We've got our own particular domestic abuse prevention coordinator. So it's her role to coordinate all the South Ribble referrals and work through the referral system. And I know Lynn, and I know that she would definitely follow up on any issues that we have. Nothing is going to be, falling off a cliff really with this one. If any of them are rejected, Lynn would try and understand why they've been rejected, and if we can do anything to bring them back into the service, then she will be doing that.
Okay, thank you for that response. Next is Leslie.
Thank you, Chair. If we can go to page 18, paragraph 40, the domestic homicide review. How confident would you be that partners have learned the lessons from previous reviews? Thank you.
It's a difficult question, really. I know that the domestic homicide reviews are very thorough. So I am confident that if there was issues, they are definitely picked up. We have an independent chair, an independent person who prepares them. So I'm absolutely confident that the issues are picked up. I'm not so confident of whether lessons have been learnt. They do. The Community Safety Partnership do share lessons. They do have a Lancashire-wide group that also share the lessons with this one Lancashire-wide group, because we may learn some from Pendle or we may learn some from Blackburn. And I know that if there's lessons learned for local authority, that is taken very seriously. And as a community safety partnership, we would discuss any lessons learned. I'm not so confident with other partners.
Okay, thank you. Leslie again.
Another one from me. Page 19, paragraph 41. What have some of the outcomes of the South Ribble integrated team been? And supplementary to that, what's meant in the report as cases closed? Thank you.
So the South Ribble integrated team, so it could be many things that's success. So we've got a social prescribing team now. So that social prescribing team is worked in to this group. So funnily enough, they sent me some case studies yesterday that I read this morning about particular individuals who've been referred. So it could be that they're referred through to substance misuse. So we have a group called Changing Futures who work with homeless people with substance misuse. So they could be referred through to that. So from regards to the homelessness, again, we could be looking at supported accommodation. So again, we could gain access to supported accommodation for people who've been referred through. It could be as simple as working on hoarding behaviour. So it could be as simple as paying for a clean-up, paying for somebody to come in and support somebody to do that. It could be that we've provided white goods, carpets, curtains, bikes for people to get to work. We've also provided clothes for people to go to job interviews. So it's an absolute huge wide range of things. When we say case closed, generally what we mean is we've provided the support and we're mostly confident that we've done what we said that we'd do, and partners have taken the action that they've said that they would do. But doesn't mean that that person never comes back to Schritt. They can access the services that we've got. It's not just that it's closed and that's it, but that we're confident that what we said that we'd do to support the individual has been done, and then that would be the case closed. So it's a wide range of support that we provide.
Okay, Councillor Martin, question 12.
Thank you, Chair. We sort of alluded to what I'm going to ask about the antisocial behaviour reporting or possible lack of reporting. So on page 21, we have the Home Office group stats, and which shows a -4% reduction in total crimes. So again, we would be wondering how confident, I know you're not the Home Office, but how confident you would be about those figures with regard to people not reporting crimes for feeling that nothing will happen. And I suppose the supplementary question with that is what would the police and the council do to encourage people to do it in their own right?
Thank you for the question. So at the moment, members of the public have different avenues to report a crime. One of those ways is to ring the 101 phone number and make a call and report their crime or their incident that's taking place. Another way of reporting is directly coming to the police station. So we have our front desk, which is open at Leyland Police Station. There are certain operating hours, but members of the public can come in and report the incident, and we will record the incident at the front desk. There is a public inquiry assistant that's working behind the desk on all the operating times, so they can come in. So that's another method. Also, anybody tech savvy, and I find this is the easiest one, which I used the other day to help support somebody else to report a road crime incident that took place against them, and that's using their mobile phones or their tablet or their computer to do via our website. And that's probably the easiest way, and you get a log number straight away, and you get a text message, you get an email sent to you if you provided those details. Those details are then passed to our force crime management unit, and there are a team of 80 officers working a full 24-hour shift pattern in order to, and this is part of the TOM model, which was, and I didn't go into that element, but this is all about reporting for members of the public. In terms of encouraging people, what I would say that looking at certain areas in terms of where the crimes are taking place. So if we take, for example, sexual offences, then what we'd like to do is work with partners to encourage members of the public who are victims of this crime go into our educational institutes and try to give key messages there, such as colleges, schools. And if you look at sexual offences, there can be, I'm not going to quote the figures, but I don't know the age range, but whatever the age range is, you can always target those groups by giving out key messages about how easy it is to make a report to the police, and then what will the police do about that, and how victim services can support that individual through the process from the initial creation of the crime all the way through to prosecuting somebody and supporting victims all the way to court. I hope that answers the question, unless you've got a follow-up.
Yeah, you can.
Obviously, you got the charity Crime Stoppers. Do you get a lot of referrals from that, or would you encourage that? Because what I've noticed with the website is it's quite data intensive. You've got to put a lot of data in it to report that crime, which may put a few people off. But Crime Stoppers is obviously probably an easier way to do that. Is that something you'd advocate as well?
Yes, most definitely. So Crime Stoppers being a charity, all the calls that come through to Crime Stoppers are anonymous. So often we find if somebody's got a cannabis grow next door, or if they don't want their identity revealing, Crime Stoppers is a very good method of reporting a crime. I'm not saying that it's if you were to contact the police, we would share your details with anybody. We don't, but people do sometimes they want to report something, but they don't want to be directly involved, and those can be for a whole host of reasons, and we understand that apprehension. But yes, definitely, Crime Stoppers is a very good way, and I've done that in the past where some people did not want to give their details at all. I gave them the Crime Stoppers phone number, and it was a cannabis grower that was in a rented property. So I do advocate that as well.
Okay, thank you. So my question, page 21, paragraph 54. The earlier paragraph, which is the one in blue, all crimes, shows a reduction in recorded crimes. When here, this is at page 21, paragraph 54, we see some of the most serious crimes of possessing weapons, sexual offences, and theft, etc., increasing, which is very concerning. What is the partnership doing to reduce these crimes? And my second question, supplementary, is the report mentions crime but not detection rates, or what is proactively being done in South Ribble to deal with them. Please could you comment on this and perhaps include it in future reports? Thank you.
So thank you for the question, Chair. So if I was to go through the first offence, which is the date range we've got is from 2021 all the way to 2023, we see the crime rate in terms of the change that's taken place is a 13% increase. Recently, if I was to speak to you in regards to burglaries in the South Ribble area, there were two offenders that have been involved with this. Although I don't know the date where this goes up to recently, but over Christmas and before, these two main prolific offenders have been recently arrested only last week. In terms of when we talk about what we're doing, these two targets were target nominals. They were tasked 24 hours a day through our immediate response team, neighbourhood team, our task force team, our road policing unit, our road crime team, in terms of trying to target these. And I was out targeting with my staff as well, all the different addresses. Everybody that was linked to those individuals had their door either knocked or put through in terms of finding these individuals, and eventually we did find them, and they've been arrested. So in terms of what we're doing, we're proactively trying to deal with offenders who are committing crime in our area. In terms of the other offences, robbery, sexual offences, theft, vehicle offences. So if I give you an example in terms of theft and burglary, stealing from motor vehicles, burglaries in a dwelling, burglaries in other than a dwelling, commercial breaks. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Operation Defender. Have you ever heard of that? Okay, so that is all around reducing the risk to any repeat victims. The research shows that if you're a victim of crime for a burglary, the chances are the offender will strike to a nearby address. So what we do is, as soon as we've got that call, the neighbourhood staff's responsibility, the police community support officers, are to attend the address, and they are to work around in each direction, north, south, east, west, and knock on everybody's door, reassure them, collect CCTV, inform them of what's happened, not sharing any details to breach GDPRS, but what they are doing is trying to create that high visibility presence in that area to deter the outstanding suspect from committing further offences, because once the MO has been completed, it's only a matter of time before they strike again at a neighbour's address. And that's what we do mandatory. I check that document in terms of it comes through our risk and threat meeting, and I check that document. I apply the address to our Excel document. I check it every day on duty. I task it to my staff. They do it, and you will see them knocking on doors. And if they've got their hats on and they're knocking on doors, and you think, what's going on? Chances are there was a burglary, or there was a stealing from a vehicle, or a vehicle interference, and the officers are committing doing the reassurance patrol, and they are committed to Operation Defender.
Thank you for that thorough response. Councillor Jackson, question 14, please.
Thank you. I've slightly changed this question. Okay. Could our leisure services put on additional diversionary activities for the young people? Have you any ideas?
Yeah, so we have got the holiday activity fund that our leisure centres. So we have the leisure centres put on activities during the summer holidays and the half terms, Easter, October and Christmas. So we do have quite a lot of activities that are accessible. We also work with Preston North End Football Club to work with looking at diversionary activities as well with particular individuals that we're particularly concerned with. We also put funding to community venues like boxing clubs through the neighbourhood, through community hubs. So there's quite a lot of funding there that's available for diversionary activities. But there is always more that we can do. So I know our active health team are working to put an offer for our parks and play areas to look at people in particular where we've got the concerns about Withy Grove. Obviously, we've got the new pavilion and the new football pitches. So again, they've been working on activities for young people, girls football, young people's football. So there is a lot of activity out there. But we can always do more, and we are working on that.
Thanks for that.
Okay, Councillor Glee. Question 15, please.
Thank you. Hi. So we consider the Community Safety Partnership on a yearly basis. What difference will we see when we consider the partnership next year?
I suppose the only thing I can say there is I'm new in post, but you've got my commitment in terms of what matters. I mean, I'm not from this area, but what matters to me whilst I'm in this post is this area. You know, you share loyalties to sometimes where you're from, and, you know, I'm from the east of the county, you know, a good distance, but I love Leyland. I love being here. I've never worked in South Division before other than Preston, but I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. So from my side, you're going to see my officers out there doing the job that they need to be doing, tackling the things that are most important, the commitment, the priorities we have as a force, you know, putting victims at the heart of everything we do, responding to crime, and reducing harm and risk, dealing with antisocial behaviour, all the things that you'd like us to do. On my side, you've got that commitment to do it, and it's not just lip service, because I don't believe in doing my role if I'm not actually effectively changing anything. So what I'd like to see next year, if I'm coming back to you or my bosses, is that you'll see a fundamental change, and then we'll see would see our tables and graphs and percentages reduce, because if I don't do that, then I'll feel like I'm a failure. I can't lead a team if I don't believe in the mission, and I believe in it, because if I'm doing this here where I live, I'm hoping the local sergeant and the inspectors and the council and everybody else is doing the same there, which I hope they are doing. But they won't be as good as here because, you know, obviously I'm here.
Thank you so much for that response. Do we have any questions from members not on the committee? Do we have any questions from members of the public? Alderman Forrest, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant. You're very impressive. But I was concerned to see that Mile Ward Leyland Central is figuring quite highly. It's not the sort of area I would normally associate with high levels of crime, but you do identify Tesco as the hotspot. My previous experience with Tesco is that their managers last about 10 minutes a time. It's very difficult to actually get cooperation going, particularly in the Piazza area where there's a sort of mixed ownership, really, in sort of quasi-public, quasi-Tesco ownership. Do you get sufficient cooperation from the management at Tesco to try and reduce the amount of ASB that they're encountering in that area?
Thank you very much for the question. I haven't heard from my staff that they've not got the cooperation. And if there was a situation where they felt they couldn't deal or they weren't making any progress, the way I've sort of implemented my sort of stamp on my team is that they would come back to me and escalate it when they're not sure about which way to progress. And I'd physically go out and have the meeting in order to ensure that we've got better partnership work with Tesco's or any other business in order to try and fundamentally deal with the root cause of the problem. And if it's things like ASB, we need that cooperation. But if we don't get it, it'd be flagged up to me and nothing's been raised to me. If you're saying there's an issue and you believe that it's not adequately dealt with, I'm happy to speak with you afterwards and we can go over some details. And I can personally assure you that it'll get dealt with.
Come back.
You may come back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My experience is historical. It's not my ward anymore. I don't know whether there still is that difficulty, but I was just interested to see if you were doing that. I'd be interested to hear when you've spoken to your sergeant if indeed this is still the case or not.
So what I'll say in terms of your further question is that nothing's been raised to me. However, if there are any gaps, I'm more than happy to plug them. And the method that I'm trying to sort of implement with the team is do your job, do it to the best of your ability. If you're struggling with anything, flag it back to me because there are some levels of I have a young workforce as well on my team. So if they are struggling, there are other peers who are much more experienced that they are their first point of call. But after that, they can come directly to me. I have an open door policy. So in terms of trying to gain that sort of effectiveness from the team and the department, you know, that's my mission. I don't want anything not to be done properly. So if there's stuff that's happening at any business or any premises or any location, you know, I always make it my job to try and work out what's going on and deal with it, because what I don't want is to let people down.
Thank you very much for that, and thank you to Saf and Jennifer. Could I please now have formulation of any recommendations? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just some of the themes and threads from tonight's meeting that the committee might like to make as recommendations. So the committee thanks the Chair of the Community Safety Partnership and Director, together with the Police Sergeant, for attending and answering questions. The committee welcomes the progress made by the partnership over the last 12 months. The committee is grateful for the offer of a copy of the partnership plan. The committee suggests that consideration be given to the strategic needs assessment being produced more frequently to support and inform the work of the partnership. The committee requests that further reassurance be provided on the domestic violence victim support journey around rejected referrals. The committee will be grateful for future reports, including crime detection rates and more specific information on what proactive work is being done to tackle these crimes. And finally, the committee asks for more information on the plans to extend diverse activities for young people to help tackle antisocial behaviour in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Sorry, we've just got one more question for Saf, if you don't mind, from Councillor Jackson. Thank you.
Hello, Sergeant. I've just like to ask a simple question. What are your operating hours here in Leyland?
My personal or the departments?
Yeah, the department.
The departments. So the shifts for the staff start at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they'll be operating all the way to midnight. So you'll find Fridays and Saturdays midnight, and the rest of the days they'll be operating till 10 o'clock. And we have 3 different teams. So my responsibility is for my team and team 3, so or team C. My colleague Angela Atkinson, she is in charge of one team, and she does the same because we have a day team. So like, for example, today we've got the 8-5 staff on the day shift, and then the next team come on at 12 o'clock till 10 o'clock. And so if I'm on duty till 5 o'clock, I will have responsibility for both teams. And that's how it works.
So, Councillor Jackson, you have to come through the chair. Yeah. So, you want to ask another question?
I'll clarify the answer. So, okay, the neighbourhood department will work till 10 o'clock, but the immediate response teams are working for 24 hours.
All right. Thank you. First of all, finally, sorry. Did I ask for questions from a member of the public?
You did. It's just thanking the guests now.
Right, a gentleman. A brief question. All right. Please, Saf.
Which app are you talking about, sir?
Yeah, team.
Oh, yeah. So it's not an app. It's just if you Google Lancashire Police on Google, and it'll say report, and it's just one of the icons on the website, and that's how you report. You just go to the website. I can show you afterwards. Let me show you afterwards. That'll be easy. Okay.
Right. I'd just like to thank Saf and Jennifer very much for what is a complex and big subject affecting communities across the country, I guess. So thank you so much for your time and what you've informed us of tonight. It's been really useful. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you.
Okay, just whilst our guest speakers are packing away, I think I can continue with item 6, scrutiny / committee matters. And I'd like Councillor Lou Jackson at item 6A to give us a verbal update of Lancashire County Council Health Scrutiny Committee. Thank you, Councillor Jackson.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd like to give my report of the Health and Adult Services Scrutiny Committee that took place on the 4th of December 2023 at County Hall at Preston. We had a presentation on NHS Recovery and Transformation by Kevin Lavery, who is the Chief Executive of Lancashire and South Cumbria Integrated Care Board, and Maggie Oldham, Deputy CEO, Chief of Transformation. And reconfiguration of the Lancashire and South Cumbria Integrated Care Board, who attended the committee to give a presentation on the development of NHS L&S Cumbria Integrated Care Board, as well as an update on the Recovery and Transformation Programme. It was reported to the committee, quite soberingly, that since the inception of the Integrated Care Board, they had agreed a planned deficit with NHS England of approximately £80 million, and that it was recognised that there was some considerable challenges in the area relating to spending. The transformation and recovery programme had been established to reduce that deficit by configuring and integrating services, with the core aim to improve patient outcomes and provide sustainable services across this area. It was highlighted that there were many opportunities to improve efficiencies across the board, including reducing costs in areas such as consolidating back office support services, which would increase funding to frontline services. As well as this, it was noted that a cost-saving opportunity had been identified in terms of streamlining clinical specialities and focusing on prevention programmes with local authority, public health teams, which would in turn lead to greater patient outcomes, they believed. Comments and questions from the floor were as follows. In relation to the area of the report which mentioned NHS intervention, the committee queried what that would involve. It was explained that usually when intervention is required, a director would be implemented to lead on consultancy work to diagnose issues and produce a report outlining changes to the strategy. In the case of Lancashire and South Cumbria ICB, it has been established that this would not be required as diagnostic work to identify challenges had already been completed, and it had been requested that staff would be brought in to assist in conducting the changes that needed to be made. Concern was raised regarding the plan to move people from acute beds into community-based care, and it was noted that this could have worse outcomes for patients if not handled properly, and if enough investment wasn't put into the areas of community care. It was highlighted to the committee that, although there was a need to move patients into community care, the focus was more on preventing and avoiding admission than moving those already in hospital beds. Members also queried what was meant by Core 20+, which was referred to throughout the report, and it was clarified that this was an approach to reducing healthcare inequalities and whereby service improvements could be made in the community where there were problems, and the approach could assist with identifying the wider determinants of health of communities. It was noted that approaches under this format were already being implemented, and an example was given of using the approach to understand the factors surrounding increased out-of-hours usage in the most deprived areas of Blackburn. Concern was also raised that workforce levels would not be sufficient to staff the new hospitals which were planned to be built in Lancaster and Preston. It was reported to the committee that the NHS had recently announced investment in development and training, with a particular focus on those with lower educational attainment, and cited the importance of utilising this within Lancashire and South Cumbria in order to create a sustainable workforce. I took the opportunity while Kevin Lavery was talking to ask about the rack concrete in hospitals and buildings under the stewardship of ICB. It was reported that an assessment is ongoing which will be brought to the ICB once concluded, and I hope too that it will be brought to the Scrutiny Committee at Lancashire County Council. Members also queried what could be done to improve the status of dentistry, as it was outlined that this was an area of responsibility the ICB had taken on from 1st of April 2023. It was noted there were significant challenges in the workforce that needed to be overcome. A future report on this matter is due to be brought to the steering group. A query was raised with regards to decision-making on changes to service provision. The committee was advised that agreement had been made around delegations within the ICB, although there hadn't been any major configuration of services as yet. However, it was acknowledged that more development was needed around this. With regards to specialist commissioning, this is due to come into the remit of the ICB, and further guidance awaited on arrangements and staffing. And it was resolved that the ongoing development of the Lancashire and South Cumbria ICB, particularly in relation to the work being undertaken on recovery and transformation, be considered. And a further update will be provided to the committee in 12 months' time. There was a short verbal report by David Wesley of the Health Scrutiny Steering Group for the meeting that took place on the 15th of November 2023. It was noted that 2 updates were provided to the steering group from the Transformation and Recovery Programme and the Shaping Care Together Programme. The report outlined that the issues and concerns that had previously been raised around the pause to move to 24/7 thrombectomy and associated stroke services had been resolved. And the group received a positive report which stated the business case. And now restarting of the work was underway. It was further noted within West Lancashire, the Southport and Ormskirk Hospital Trust was now part of Merseyside and West Lancashire Teaching Hospitals Foundation Trust, which was allowing for investment in the area's A&E services as well as greater patient outcomes, they said. That part is completed. This morning I received a new hospitals programmes update. In May 2023, the government announced more than 20 billion had been ring-fenced for the next phase of the National Hospital Programme to replace Royal Preston Hospital and Royal Lancaster Infirmary. This is part of the rolling programme of national investment in capital infrastructure beyond 2030. The years given by the Senior Responsible Officer for the Lancashire and South Cumbria New Hospitals Programme are 10 to 12 years hence of 2033 to 2035. At the New Hospitals Roadshow held on 16th of August 2023, attended by government reps, local councillors, NHS leaders and our health and social care colleagues, the key points and observations raised were for the new hospitals for when they are going to be built, which are possibly going to be 10 or 12 years' time. It was important that there was accessibility and good public transport to the new sites. It was important also to make the hospital sites attractive places to live and work for the doctors and nurses and staff. The need for hospital provision for childcare was important on these sites, and a call for investment in a health hub in Preston. The importance of continued investment in facility services in Westmoreland Hospital was also very important. There was also an item on Hospital 2.0. Now, Hospital 2.0, this is a thinking to develop a national approach to deliver new hospitals, that they will be speedy in construction and at a reduced cost to the taxpayer. At previous scrutiny meetings at LCC, had asked the important question of what were the new methods of construction. I didn't receive a detailed answer of the first question, but for what is the life expectancy of these buildings using the new methods of construction, the answer was 40 to 50 years only. So please draw your own conclusions. To help with this perspective of hospital building life expectancy, I did a little research into the original Preston Royal, of which I did work when I was a student nurse. And that was built in 1829 over a 4-year period to 1833 as a house of recovery by the Poor Law Vestry. Then incorporated with the Royal Infirmary in 1870 and it closed in 1987, and that building lasted an esteemed 154 years. This is approximately 3 times the life expectancy in reality of these new proposed buildings, hospital buildings, of modern methods of construction. We around this table will not be here in 40 to 50 years' time, but when the next new hospitals will be required to be built. However, the legacy we leave to our children and their children should not be a repeated tax burden of billions of pounds to replace those planned to be built in 2033 to 2035, with such a limited life of 40 to 50 years. This report was provided for you today by myself, Councillor Lou Jackson, member for Earnshaw Bridge. And if you'd like to find more information, more detailed information at the latest news for the new hospitals, please look up Health and Adult Services Committee on YouTube to hear exactly what the director of the ICB says. And follow also the New Hospitals programme on Twitter, which is now X, and Facebook. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Jackson. Now on to item 6B. Councillor Pritchard will also provide a verbal update. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the cost of living scrutiny task group has widened its remit considerably, and we are now looking at equalities as a whole. So we're looking at issues around housing conditions, for example, air quality, and basically covering the 7 different domains of deprivation across the ward. We'll be inviting all ward councillors to come and tell us what the pertinent issues are for the people living in their areas, because we know that, you know, sometimes there's hidden issues that people don't always see. We'll also be inviting some key partners as well to come in and contribute to our understanding and our better understanding of what the main issues are in South Ribble for our communities. The final report is going to be presented to this group in January 25, but there will be an interim report that will come in 6 months' time. But we would, we hope that all councillors will, come along and help us to make sure this report is as robust as possible, because we know that hard data alone doesn't tell the whole story. So we need the people who are within their communities to actually come and give us that soft data, about their ward, because they know it best. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Moving on to item 6C, meetings and trainings attended by Scrutiny Committee members. Has anybody attended any training? No? Okay. Item 6D, the forward plan. Members are asked to comment and note the forward plan. Noted? No further discussion? Okay, thank you. That's the last item on the agenda. I'd like to thank once again our visitors tonight, who, as always, have given us a thorough presentation around the subjects, and we're really grateful for that, and it's always a lessons learned for us all. And I'd also like to thank the officers for their support tonight, and finally to the councillors for attending and making this a very constructive committee meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a safe journey home.